Welcome back to In Between Cuisine. You know, most of the country is starting to cool off a bit. You need to wear a jacket when you go outside, or maybe you're turning the heater on and inside. But not where I'm at. Where I'm at today is going to be almost 80 degrees here in Texas. But for most of the country, it's starting to get cold. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. You know, just that fall season is setting in. And so you want to eat something that matches the weather. So today we're going to do a meal that my dad actually taught me to do a long time ago. And it's definitely a perfect cold weather food. It's hearty, it's filling, and it'll definitely warm you up. I'm talking about pork and beans. Now I do usually do two versions of this, but today I'm only going to do one version. The main reason is this makes a lot and I don't need that many pork and beans. So I'll tell you how to do the second version of it, which is pretty much just canned beans and a piece of meat. But today I'll show you the long version of how we can definitely spruce that up and make it from scratch and really pull out a lot of that great comforting flavors. So, and I'll definitely do the cost breakdown at the end as well so you can see the differences between the two. And without anything else, let's get started. All right, you guys, here's what we're going to be working with today. So of course, we have the main ingredient up here, which is our pinto beans. They've already been pre-sorted and soaked in salt water overnight. Feeling great there. Here we have our pork. That is our pork shoulder and 2 pieces of bacon. Now to add some of the flavors, we got 3 jalapeños. Totally optional if you want to use those or not. It's not for everyone, I just love them. A whole onion, 3 garlic cloves, some ground mustard, some brown sugar, some honey, some tomato sauce, vinegar, and of course, salt. So first thing that we want to do at this point is cut our vegetables. Let's get to it. So you really don't have that much to really cut and prepare here. You just have your onions and your jalapeños. The garlic we're going to mince later, so you don't need to worry about cutting that at all. So let's just go ahead and do our onions real quick. And that's that. Now for the jalapeños, you don't want this stem here. So you can simply cut that part out. You're left with the inside. I take my knife and I just kind of circle it around on the inside, kind of hollow it out a little bit and get some of those seeds out of there. You can leave the seeds in if you want it really spicy. That's a little too much for me. But totally up to you is how much you like your spice level. You cut them into quarters and then get the rest of those seeds out. Once your seeds, so once the seed level is to where you want it, go ahead and just give these a rough chop also. The next thing you want to do is salt the pork. So you want to put a generous amount of salt all over this pork shoulder, or pork butt, however you like to say it. Just because we're going to sear this, and this is what's going to give it a good crust to sear in the flavors. This is a large piece. Wasn't going to make a piece this big, but then once I put the beans in the water, I realized I made way too many beans. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the whole thing. Might as well. Now this looks like a lot, but it's what you need. And there we go. Now we got our pork all nice and salted. So now that we have all our vegetables cut, we got our meat salted, we got the bacon chopped, now we need to sear the pork. And I do that in the clay oven pot. You could do it in a regular pot, and as long as it has a lid, it'll work just fine. Just clay ovens, I don't know, it brings out the flavor. It's what I like to use. Let's get to searing. All right, here we are over the oven. So we're gonna go ahead and sear this now. So I have it at medium to high heat. So if you see all these burn marks here in my pot, that's because I made a mistake a while ago and I seared it on high temperature. And the oil all kind of pooled to right there where the meat wasn't and just totally burnt the pot. But it's still good. Lesson learned. You want to have high temperature when you're searing, but you don't want to have it all the way on high. So we're getting pretty warm here. We're going to add some olive oil. Let the oil heat up before you put the meat on. It needs to be hot on contact. All right, so we got our oil nice and hot and ready to go. I'm going to place this in. So what this is doing is essentially creating a coating around the meat, which will seal in all the juices. Don't walk away from this because this usually happens really quick. All right, once you got all sides done, go ahead, remove that from the heat. Just let that cool down just for a second. All right, so I put the heat back down to a medium low, but we want to use the same pot. I put a little bit more oil in there because you have all that seared juices from the pork in there now. So now, go ahead and add our onion. And our jalapeno. And our 2 pieces of bacon. I'm going to let this sweat down for a while. All right, once these have sauteed down for about 3 minutes, go ahead, add your garlic. Just like that. Stir that in. Gosh, this is like smelling so wonderful. I love the smell of bacon. I love the smell of sauteed onions and garlic. And I love the smell of sauteed jalapeños. Like a trifecta of smells here. Okay, that garlic is nice and incorporated, so we are going to go ahead and add our beans. Give that a nice stir. Go ahead and add tomato sauce. Your vinegar. Your honey. Brown sugar and ground mustard. Give that a good stir. Then you want to add your water. Raise your heat because we're going to bring this to a boil. Actually, I'm going to add some more water here. So that was 2 cups of water. And let's wait and get that to a boil. All right, now that we got this to a boil, we're going to reduce the heat so we can keep it at a simmer. And then we're going to place our pork right there in the middle and let that cook. Reduce the heat. We don't want it boiling over. And then you cover it. All right, so we got everything in the pot. It's simmering, it's cooking. Now this is gonna cook for at least 4 hours. But we're gonna come check on it in 2 hours and flip the pork upside down so we can make sure we're getting both sides. You could always keep your eye on it, make sure you got a good water level. You don't want it to dry out. So always come check it every half hour or so just to make sure your water levels are fine. If you had to add more water, add more water. Other than that, we will see you in 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours. Let's take a look and see how we're looking. Oh, look at that. That looks great. So all we want to do at this point is give that pork a good turn over. Make sure our beans are all good. Our water level looks really good. Make sure we'll get snug in there. Get a little moisture up there. And that's all you need to do at this point. Cover this back up. And we will see you again in another 2 hours. All right, here we are 4 hours later. Now I did turn the heat all the way to low about 30 minutes before this because I like to let it thicken up a little bit. As you can see, a lot of the water has evaporated, which is exactly how I like it. You could leave it up and have it a little more soupy if you want. I just like mine nice and thick. Looks great, smells amazing. Now this pork should be at this point so tender that it just falls apart. Oh yeah, look at that. Just with this, look at that. Oh man, that looks amazing. See if you guys can see that. I can even, like, it falls apart so much I can't even grab it. Look at that. Beautiful. So at this point, since it falls apart so easy, you could just grab with your tongs here, kind of give us a little turn, kind of grind that pork up a little bit just like this. And then stir that around. I like to leave it chunky, just so you know how much you're putting in each bowl. When you serve it, man, look at that. Man, you guys don't have smell-o-vision because this smells amazing. Get that all nice and stirred. Let's put some in a bowl and give this thing a taste. All right, let's give this a try. It looks amazing. So good. This is so tasty. Just the right amount of spice, the right amount of sweetness. This is just a bowl of goodness right here. And this, with all the ingredients put together, this only costs $10.32 to make. Now you say, oh, well, that's not that cheap. There's about enough here for a big bowl like this. I would say about 8 bowls in there. So you divide that number by 8 bowls, that's $1.29 a serving. That's an incredible value for the amount of flavor and the fullness you get. I mean, I'm a little bit of a bigger guy. Maybe a bowl and a half is probably what about I'll eat of this, but for the average person, 1 bowl is going to be more than enough. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe below. Comment if you want me to make a special dish or any kind of dish that you want. Comment below and maybe we can make it happen. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.